Hi, everybody. Okay, so we're still with the 12th day of Christmas today, right? The 12th day of Christmas. So, happy Christmas, and we're coming into Epiphany, and we can't forget because the light is in the world, right? And it is. We are getting so much information. So let me see if I'm on so we can get started. Thank you for coming on so late, those that will join, because it just can't be helped. Sometimes we are burning the midnight oil because so much intel is coming in about the Maduro capture, what that means, who he was involved with, the indictment, also with the Candace Owens and Mitch Snow situation. Sorry. Uh, I've been talking quite a bit, and that is really important. And of course, Danae Katzen, Gonzalez Ambriz being on the fugitive list, and we did get information today. She's on the most wanted. But Jonathan Caleb Ambriz, her husband, he, West Pointer 14380A, big computer guy with all kinds, with LLCs and working for DHS and all kinds of information on him that he was arrested with her for the fraud, for the scamming, all of that. And, all the connections with his family. Um, yeah, that um, really has a lot to do with Richard's case. Well, we received confirmation that he is also wanted. Okay, he also has a warrant out for his arrest. And, it just tells you there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Uh, we're reporting that all the time, but the media doesn't want to report all the actions that the Trump administration has been making behind the scenes, or not even behind the scenes, but they don't want to report it like it should be reported. So we're here. We're here to do that for you. And sometimes it gets to be, past midnight because, people are very, very busy. You see, President Trump, he is absolutely working around the clock, working around the clock. I don't think he gets much sleep at all because he's really saving the world. That, in our opinion, that's what he's doing. And when you hear this whole Maduro, and then of course this whole Candace Owens with Mitch Snow, and I understand their confusion, and who they blame and what they see, um, they just don't have the intel that Team Find Richard Halliday has. I mean, they have intel, they have huge intel, but there's so much intel out there that you have one direction of intel, and we have another. We have another, and I just want to say thank you to everybody that is on our team. We have people always ask, how do you know that? Well, um, we have established over 5.5 years a very trusted team of boots on the ground, insiders there at El Paso and along the borderland. Because around the world, even around the world, because people are sick and tired of all the fraud. They're sick and tired of all the criminal trafficking. They are absolutely sick about what happened to Richard, and he was in July of 2020. Well, go back to 2019, where he absolutely uh, knew about the orchestration of the Walmart mass shooting. And the evidence confirms, I can say it live, the evidence confirms that the Walmart mass shooting was orchestrated, that it was tampered with, that the whole crime scene was tampered with. I was asked who was targeted that day, and I would say Maria Eugenia Lavaretta wrote, she was absolutely professionally killed. And so was um, Alexander Gerhard Hofmann. Wrote he was absolutely professionally killed. We have the pictures, the video of everything. Also, I would say the Anchando couple, they're also there, and we have the video of the baby being, smuggled out, and the cops not even stopping this guy taking the baby out, and there's a lot of unanswered questions there, but they were absolutely professionally killed. And then you saw Patrick Crucius wandering in, right? Wandering in after, and we know that there was officials in that walked that crime scene before it was secured. We know that they didn't secure it until like 2 days later. And so Richard absolutely knew about this orchestration. And why did they do it? Why did they do it? Does it connect to Maduro? Absolutely, it connects to Maduro. Um, why did they put together this terrible, terrible, bloody thing, right? And tamper with the crime scene and stage the crime scene, right? And where did these other bodies come from? Did they have access to other bodies to transport other bodies? Absolutely. We know that through the funeral home fraud, the purchase funeral home fraud, the Plenitude crematorium body fraud. We know about the medical examiner fraud. We know about Delia Briones, the county clerk fraud. Um, uh, there's just so much, right? So we know about Solomon Anusa, U.S. Army, mortuary operations, brother Tavita Nusa being being accused and reported for foul play, reported for tampering with files, with Richard's file, with leaking Richard's file, up to no good, with his cousin Lalani Hart, and also their connections with the VA IDS Pueblo, which is the death benefits. So could they move bodies around? 100% they could. They had the vehicles, they had the means for the paperwork and all of that. They could do fraud, 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 scam, scam, scam. Sounds like Danae Katzen, right? It sounds like Danae Katzen. It sounds like Jonathan Caleb Ambrose. Um, and where does their scamming, where does it begin, where does it end, right? Because uh, it well, she's on the most wanted list, right? And he has a warrant out for his arrest. So uh there's just a lot going on behind the scenes, because I think the big fish are really the target. The big fish being El Mayo, who was, and I believe he was wrongly arrested. I think they were trying to do that on purpose. We know that it was Colin Wenton that orchestrated that, and who owned the plane. We have a pretty good idea of who owned the plane. Kind of confirmed it, right? Um, and we'll let the authorities, or when we're able, we'll let you know. But how many? how many very wealthy people have that kind of plane in El Paso? Not too many, not too many. There are planes. There are wealthy people that have planes, but that plane, right? It narrows it down a lot, a lot. And so you have El Mayo, and you know that El Mayo was a narco trafficker, right? Absolutely. If you're a narco trafficker, you're also with the weapons and the ammunition. They go hand in hand. And now we have this arrest of Maduro. And yesterday I was like, this is really important. I would like information. And I wasn't disappointed. We got a lot of information today that's going to blow you away because, there's a lot of talk about him being, supplying the cocaine or the fentanyl and being a narco terrorist. You have heard about the diamonds. You've probably heard about the cryptocurrency. You've heard a lot about the oil, 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 oil. And you might think it's because of all of those things, and maybe they play a small part. I would think they play a small part, but that's not really what's going on here. What's really going on here is about the attack on the sovereignty of the United States by tampering with the elections in many different ways through machines. The reports are coming out, and the indictment is out there, which is very interesting. And I posted up the link to the indictment of Nicholas, I think is Nicholas Maduro. Um, but this is all about the 2020 election tampering. Okay, that's what this is all about. And you can add on the oil, of course. You can, and President Trump is not. He's not a buttercup. He's tough. He is absolutely tough. If we're going to do the work to capture this fraud, this narco terrorist, this, you know, and and absolutely engaged with the Sinaloa cartel, with other cartels, with the FRN, the Colombian one. I don't know if I got that right. But it is the Colombian um, uh, group there. Um, and President Trump said that a lot of Cubans lost their lives in all of this, right? But we know that the Sinaloa cartel were um, in deals with, according to the indictment, that they were in deals with Maduro. Okay. And so, the question for us is, was it El Mayo's faction or was it El Chapo's faction? Because El Chapo's faction really, really meant a lot of harm to our son, Richard Halliday. And El Mayo's, right? And El Mayo, he sent for counterintelligence his lawyer to Richard. Um, I think he was old school, very evil. I'm not making any excuses for El Mayo at all. But he was a little bit different. He was a little older school, older kind of criminal, organized criminal. And El Chapo's people, after El Chapo was arrested too and sentenced to life in prison in 2019, right when, of course, the same year as Jeffrey Epstein was arrested. 2019 was a big year, was a very big year. Um, the Maduros with the Sinaloa cartel and others attacked American sovereignty by wanting to tamper. It seems that the election machines, the voting machines, were tampered with from Venezuela. That they were flooding in a lot of people in swing states to affect the election, and providing illegal documents, providing a lot of drugs to also hurt elections, targeting certain areas of the United States for maximum use of drugs. Um, yeah, so it's very interesting to read the indictment. I hope that you do that. I did post it up. But this is about election tampering. And one thing that President Trump really, really cares about is the 2020 election. And I think that this arrest is going to be for a wheel in a deal. Okay. It's kind of like El Chapo's arrest. It's also like El Mayo's. The way President Trump gets his information is he will try to get a plea deal, right? He'll try to get a deal um, with Maduro. I think so. And the word is out that, Pelosi was part of this attack on the sovereignty of the United States um, to tamper with the election. Obama was there, Bush was at one of them, and that's really important to recognize because that means that this is not a Democrat or Republican. This is the bureaucrats. This is the deep state, right? This is the criminal deep state that's involved in this uh, attack on the sovereignty of the United States so that they can continue. And they were in office, so they could have stopped all of this criminal trafficking, but it didn't get stopped to continue the criminal trafficking, the access to children through the child trafficking, and uh, you know, and everything else that goes with it, right? So President Trump clearly this is more evidence that he's very serious because he would never have taken out Maduro if you know, if he was part of like the trafficking, okay? Because Maduro is the fuel, he's the diamonds, he's the cryptocurrency, he's um, providing these false documents, right? And it is even said that in Mexico, that the vote for Scheinbaum was tampered with, and it was from the help of Maduro. Now, I don't know if that's true. This is the feedback that we are getting from very reliable sources. And so, I thought that was very interesting because Scheinbaum is not really a friend to liberty, not a friend to justice. She is more a friend to the criminal trafficking, right? The criminal trafficking. And when she's pressured, when she is driven to have to confront Maru Campos, who's now in New York, y'all. Maru Campos does not want to stay in Mexico right now. And yeah, she might be arrested, because Cesar Duarte was arrested, right? And I'm sure that Miss Fong, Duarte's wife, maybe she's not there either, or I don't know. But it seems like they're running for the hills or running for the United States. We know that Cesar Paneche is in the United States. Um, but I think, like Rafael Arellano Caron is in the United States. He doesn't want to be in Mexico because, President Trump, if he can arrest Maduro, I think that he can arrest these individuals, right? That tamper and are up to no good. Clearly up to no good and up to no good in Richard's case. But we are in the vicious negotiations, and they are negotiations for the remains of our son. And so, it's not always going to be what the perfect deal. but we want our son's remains. And so I think that this Maduro arrest is to make a deal. It might not be the perfect deal, but I think that President Trump's eyes on Obama and Pelosi and Bush and those that really were traitors to the United States after we've given them everything, right? We've given them everything, and they want to attack our system, right? That they're supposed to be protecting. And I think that is really President Trump's aim. And I think part of that aim is to get reliable elections. And this was Charlie Kirk's aim. Clearly, that is what he was using Turning Point USA for reliable elections. And also, how you run the campaign, how you canvass the to the young people, to the minorities, to the regular just anybody that you can canvas to, how you approach it, how you get them, bring them together, how you get them to become MAGA, right? That's what Charlie Kirk was doing. The too big to rig, the cleaning out of the RNC. And then also, another thing that Charlie Kirk wanted to do was to audit TPUSA. He clearly felt that something was not going right in TPUSA, and he wanted to audit TPUSA. And now we're finding out about fraud and money laundering. And, for somehow it's connected to Hoffman and Farnsworth. Well, my goodness, that sounds really familiar with Alexander Gerhard Hoffman, who was targeted in the Walmart mass shooting, and the Farnsworth that the lead that we got early on in our son's case. Um, so we know that this is a Mormon faction, a cartel tied Mormon faction, up to no good, and really infiltrated into our system, into high positions. And, you really know them by their name, or you start scrutinizing if they have a certain name. Um, that's very clear because it seems like the same names over and over and over again. So, that is really the major intel that we're getting is this Sinaloa cartel being connected. So that's Maru Campos, who's in New York right now. Um, and, if she gets arrested, she'll probably be in New York, right? And then it's going to be hard for her to have visitations, or have her own counsel. I mean, New York is not real close to El Paso, right? So that seems to be the place that they're taking um, these the fraudsters and the scammers and all of that. So, and getting back to Candace Owens, I know that there is a lot of talk surrounding all of that. We are keeping up with all of that. Uh, it really, with Mitch Snow, it really corroborates the tunnels in Fort Huachuca, tunnels at Fort Bliss, criminal trafficking that involves the military at Fort Huachuca, criminal trafficking that involves military, that's Fort Bliss. We know about the 500,000 children that were being trafficked through Fort Bliss. The worst type of crimes. It's so bad. We got that from DES Thomas Kane, that it was really bad. I mean, it really shook him up, really shook him up. How what was being done to these children, that they were being targeted. Um, and we know about La Diabla and targeting crisis pregnancy women, um, giving them illegal C-sections by like a 17-year-old, 16, 17-year-old girl. And if they survived that, then they had their organs harvested. It's just a terrible, just absolutely demonic situation. And so, but this, you can try to connect dots and all of that. Um, it's a little scary to do it, but you can absolutely try to connect the dots. Um, and, you know, why do they want to affect the elections and tamper with elections and everything? Well, because they want to continue to traffic like this. And their main goal is to get access to children, y'all. That's been, very, very clear when you look at the Hart family and other families involved in all of this. Um, those that are involved in this case, they want access to children, and it's for very, very bad reasons, very bad reasons. So that's been made very clear uh, uh, in in all the evidence that we have. It makes you cry. It makes you really get, yeah, you have to take a very deep breath, because the scope of this, the absolute scale and scope of this is huge. A 500,000 children. Now we're getting information. Over 100 have been found, but it was a lot of children, and it's the same thing with the crematorium. There hasn't been really um, a fair um, investigation of the bins, um, and the identification of all of the remains. That has been not forthcoming, not forthcoming at all. And so, yeah, we're working very hard to drive them to do the right thing and give us the information that we have the right to. This is our son, and we absolutely have the right to his remains and to the information. Um, Thank you, Victor. Evening from southern New Mexico. Thank you so much for joining. Myra Baker, thank you so much. And Laura, thank you so much for your prayers and your love. And this is really descending like on Beto O'Rourke, and those that financed him. And we know that absolutely he was involved with the cartels. If it is found out through our intelligence that he's connected to Maduro, like for humanitarian aid, that's how they like to frame it. They'll like to frame it with something good, right? Like humanitarian aid, and it will be really to abuse and use for really rotten things. So, that's all the things that we're looking into here, because the indications is that that is what happened. Um, so, yes, Richard was forcibly removed from his barracks room, taken to the basement room, which is the arms room. That room, we've put on the seal, we put up the video of that. Um, Thank you so much for taking a huge interest in that, because we feel that is the crime scene. And yeah, we're getting to the bottom of that. It just takes time. It takes a lot of time when there's so much tampering and obstruction and everything. But they can't stop the truth from coming out, because the truth always comes out. So, we were very sure about that. So here we are, within the line of duty status for Richard, and more information about all the surrounding huge criminal activity there on Fort Bliss and in El Paso. I mean, it's huge. So There had to be like a director there, y'all. And of course, the school is just brilliant with its director. So, um, yeah, so this is our negotiation right now. You see what President Trump is doing, having to do something that really no other president has ever done, and capture Maduro and his wife. And more information is coming out about his wife. I can tell you that. Um, and El Mayo and El Chapo and Jeffrey Epstein, all of them have been arrested. Of course, they focus on Jeffrey Epstein, but he's no longer with us. And, just take that into consideration. Um, because I think the list is coming out and it's not going to be the list that people want. It's going to be more like election tampering list, um, which kind of came out today, didn't it? So, okay, everyone, thank you so much. I know it's really late. I think uh, that is huge, huge breaking news. I'm looking forward to Stu Peters interviewing Mitch Snow. I hope that happens, very, very soon. So, yeah, thank you for coming on. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for all of your support. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing, hopefully a little bit earlier. Yeah, thank you